Joining us now from London to discuss this is Mike Buckley. He's the Director of Campaign Central. Mike, really appreciate your time. Do you believe an agreement will actually be reached by the end of the year and this deadline?
It's very hard to say. The discussions have been going on now since February, and in all of that time, the three sticking points have been the same. Governance, which means legal oversight of the deal and the agreement. The level playing field, which means agreements on workers' rights, environmental regulations, and state aid, and fisheries. And the fact that they're still discussing these things and the leaders are still saying that they're very far apart means that we now have to face the possibility, the significant possibility, that there will be no deal, which will have huge economic consequences for Britain, and indeed economic consequences for the European Union as well.
Let's talk a little bit about those economic consequences, because who is the biggest loser if there is a no-deal Brexit?
The biggest loser by far is the UK. So the UK is absolutely shooting itself in the foot. First, by leaving the European Union at all, but particularly by doing so in such a hard way. Although even if we get a deal, our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, is only asking for a very, very small, a very thin agreement, as they call it. So we will still have there'll still be a huge economic impact here, but it's a bigger economic impact if there is no deal. But at the same time, European Union countries, particularly those in the north of Europe, like France and Belgium, that do a lot of trade with the UK, they will also lose out economically. And then, of course, there's Ireland, and Ireland is in a very, very difficult position itself and will lose out significantly from Brexit. But the European Union have very much stood by Ireland and are doing all that they can to mitigate the impact there.
And of course, one of the biggest losers if this doesn't go through could be Boris Johnson himself. I mean, earlier this evening, we spoke to a former Labour MP who says Johnson may just lose his job if no deal is reached. Do you think Johnson will then try to get another extension and try to further negotiations?
Well, there's no legal way to extend now. So Boris Johnson could have asked for an extension in the summer, but once we pass June the 30th, at that point, there's no legal way then for him to apply for an extension. So we really are now at the end of the road. He cannot kick the can any further down the road. So he has to choose within the next few days whether to go for a deal with the consequences of that, or the things that he sees as consequences, or whether to go for no deal, which would have a huge impact in the country, would cost a lot of jobs and a lot of businesses, but will particularly hit manufacturing. I think what you're looking at now is a test run of the customs arrangements and trucks backing up in Britain earlier this week.
And of course, that's going to be made so much more difficult with the pandemic and people already suffering so much economically. Mike Buckley, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, but really appreciate your time. Thank you.